So as it is a third lecture, before this what we all have covered till now, in the last lecture I covered what is React and what is React DOM. So basically, React is a framework that has the algorithm. It is basically a library that has an algorithm built into it that efficiently optimize your UI changes. And React DOM is specifically for your browser, so it takes the instruction from React and do the required changes on your UI. Okay, so in the last lecture we learned this. Okay, you're doing good for the. In the previous lecture I explained these two concepts. After that we installed Create React app, and we just saw the structure of it. So if I may open it again, we had this structure over here where we have package.json that have so many dependencies like React DOM, and these three are for testing. And apart from that, you have public folder, you have src, and you have to work in only src folder. Okay, so that was the thing. After that we learned what are the different feature that is given by Create React app. So the few features that we learned was hot reloading. So if I just do simply npm start, then it will push every compiled code to your UI, and you can view the changes as you go. So that is hot reloading. And beyond that, we just did testing in React, that is also built in. And you can also convert the pre-existing JSX code to a production ready compiled version of that. Okay, so when we were talking about Create React app, I just explained few of the future like structure, hot reloading, testing, build. All of this is built in into Create React app. That's why we use Create React app to develop React applications. Okay, so that is the whole case. So now after that we moved on to the basics of React. What are the basics of the React that you must know before you start building any application? So the major basics were, if I go ahead, so the major basics were initially. First, what is a component? So component is anything. So component was anything that returns you an HTML. Okay, so you can think of component like a abstracted level. You can just for a website like LinkedIn, you can just see that there are posts, there are profile, there are nav bar. So these you can think of it as component. But for React, on a programming point of view, anything, any function or any class that returns an HTML is a component. Okay, and as majorly these components are made of functions. So if I open a code, okay, if I open a code, so in this app.js you can see we have a function, okay, that returns a bit of HTML, and this HTML contains JavaScript into it. So that's why we call it JSX, JavaScript uh, and XML. Okay, so to these components, as they are functions, we can pass some data to it, and these are known as props. Okay, so next thing that we learned was props. After that, but we see that when we are using JS6, then we have this curly brace kind of thing where we can access any variable, and it will be printing anything that will be output of this thing. So if I pass props to any prop, if for this app component, you can see that I have another index.js component that passes lecture 1 to it. Okay, so here I can access that message over here. So that is what props is all about. Okay, and after this we learned about component composition. What did we learn? We learned about component composition. So what I told you in that class, in the previous class, that you can have a component that contains sub components. Okay, and you can pass data to it. Okay, so that is what component composition is. So now we will be seeing that in action also today. Okay, so for that, let's see, let us have an component app that has some HTML, and that takes some data from index.js, like this message, or you can say prop. But apart from that, it has some inner components also, like greeter, like counter, like list. So a bigger component can be constructed through many smaller components. Okay, so that will help you thinking in isolation. So that is based on design principle, separation of concerns. Okay, so after these three things, after learning components, what are props, what is component composition, we just learned that you will not ever be creating React application that does not have user interaction. Okay, you will always be creating a UI that involves user interaction, because only there are rapid UI changes. Okay, let's just talk about few more things, like creating application that have user interaction. So first of all, user can only interact using buttons, mouse, and all those things. So for that, we took a simple example. Okay, so for that we created a counter. Okay, and we can add simply event listener like these. Okay, event handling, Bhupesh, event handling is basically when you attach a event listener. Even as the name suggests, it listens to an event. So here, this on click is an event listener. Okay, because it is listening to any click event on this button. So on UI, whenever this button is click, this event listener will invoke this event handler. So this function that is in front of the event listener is known as event handler. So with the event listeners and the function in front of it that will be invoked on the occurrence of that event, we create interactivity in our UI. Okay, understood everyone? uh, yes, exactly. Okay, so these two in combination creates is known as event handling. Okay, and after that, what we saw that, okay, of course, if I just npm start it, I think there may be some errors. Okay, but let's just start it. Npm start. Maybe I haven't run it. I changed some piece of code. Yes, it's working fine. Just hmm. Just happened to it. Hmm. So if I go to write, so as I was saying, you can easily add these kinds of event listener. But in order to change the UI, but in order to change the UI, you have to tell React that you want to change something, because React, the only purpose of React is to change your UI very efficiently. So for that, you have to declare a variable using their own method, or that is popularly known as hooks, that is use state, where you provide the initial value of that variable and a setter function that can change, that only can change your state variable. Okay, with this, what we had done, we just on every click on the plus button, we just call this increment counter, and this increment counter, with the help of the function given by this use state hook, it changes the state variable, okay, according to our need. So that is what the thing is. And for decrement also, the things work the same. Understood everyone? Huh, Upendra, Abhishek? Hmm? So that is the whole thing. Okay, count is the count in initial values. Yes, count will get zero as its initial value, because whatever you pass in use state, you get two things. You get first the variable and the function, and this function can only change this variable, and this variable will have initial value that you pass inside this bracket. Okay, understood? So now, why this state is important? Because React should know what to change, because it can efficiently change your UI. And secondly, your state ensures that whenever this set count changes your count variable, then your whole function will be executed. I mean, for as of now, you can assume that this return is executed. Okay, so that's why whenever I click plus, your count value is changed and your UI is also changed. Understood? Huh? So that is the whole thing around states also. So that sums up state. React app present copy of template. Yes, need to remove this. Huh. Now we are done with our uh, event handling also. Like create with the help of create react app, you can do it. Okay, sorry, on click and all those functions you can do it, and state and UI changes are also understood. Now let's just talk about how we can work with list. How we can work with list. Of course, as we know that with JSX, anything that you put inside curly braces in HTML. Okay, in the return part where HTML is written, whatever you put inside this curly braces, what happens is that this evaluation will be replaced with this curly brace. So what do I mean by it is that when you open something like list.jsx, something like list.jsx, here what we were having, we had an array and we have to print all the items of this array into a list. Okay, so what do we have to convert? We have to convert this array into an array of HTML. Okay, so what we did, we just created a simple static h2, and after that we created static ul. After that we needed a list of items. So for that, what we did, we just used two curly braces and we used items.map. So map is a method that is inbuilt into React, or sorry, JavaScript, that takes array as an array as an it, it is a method over array, and it takes a callback function. And for every array, for a given array, it will transform every element to something else. So you can understand it in this way, that this map function will be giving you an array. For this array, it will be giving you an array of li with key equals to the index. Okay, and with item equals to pen. So for pen, you will be getting an li like this, where item is replaced by pen and index is replaced by its index value. And similarly for pencil, similarly for eraser. So instead of array of elements, array of, sorry, values, you are getting array of element, HTML element. So that solves our purpose, and that's how you list out a simple dynamic data into a given list into React. Okay, so that's how you can work with lists in React. Okay, understood everyone? Huh? Please raise of hands or just hi, bye, anything. Okay, so that would work from my side. Okay, so if I come over here, these were the concepts that we discussed. If I move back, so React DOM, how create React app work, your basics of React, then testing, and then build in React. Okay, so build is just nothing but npm run build, and you are done with it, and it converts an optimized code for your development JSX, that whatever you have written in the create React app. And after that, we have testing in React. We have testing in React. So what does this mean? Testing in React. So yes, in the HTML, CSS, and JS code, that is what build means. Okay. Now let's just talk a bit about your where while testing. In last video, we have created beta.test.js. So instead that file, we need to import app. Uh, so let's create test.js. Yes, we have to render test here. Okay, we have to render test, and inside that we will be searching for anything that is inside greeter. Okay, so how does this thing work? Because inbuilt inside your create React app, we have this React testing library that contains jest and all the other things. With this, what you can do, you can just simply with a create component, you can create a test component with it. using just after name of the component, you can just put test and .js, and then thereafter you can work with it. Okay, so I just showed the give you the demonstration of just the basics of the testing. Okay, you have just test, render, and these kind of things. So just you must know these things. Okay, we can have a different live on it where I will be explaining these things into depth. Just need to understand that there are these things that are present. That was the major concern for the last class. Okay, for today's topic, we will be talking about forms in React. Okay, how to get data in React. Okay, so whenever you are building a front end application, uh, a front end application cannot live into isolation. Okay, so if I'm talking about any application like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, they need to have a backend, and they need to fetch data or get data from the backend. So this thing I will be teaching how you are going to do this, and for this we will be learning use effect. Okay, I will be explaining use effect to you people, and after this we will be learning how routing is done. So it is basically an optimization technique for the React, because React brings a lot of UI, and for rather responsive to have a application that is very responsive looking to our end user, we use front end routing in React. So I will be explaining what routing is in React, and we will be using React router DOM for it. And for fetching data, we will be using a hook named use effect and a library named Axios. Okay, so a library named Axios. And to teach you people form, before that I want to add one thing. I want to add a simple, very simple code example, or you can just call it an assignment, a simple to do app. Okay, to do app. With that I want to explain how you can practically, because now you know all the concepts of React. Okay, the basics of React. So how you are gonna apply that concept into an actual application. So for that I am taking to do app, a to do application as a base, so that you can understand these things, and with that I will be explaining how forms work in React also. Beyond this I will be having a to do app that will explain forms in React. And for fetching data I will be using Axios as a library. So for cutting data, and we have to use a feature of use effect inside, that is present inside React. And with this, the third thing will be what are the different routes in React. Sorry, routing in React. For this, I will be using React router DOM. So these are the small things that we will be covering today. So whoever has joined today and knows basics of React can easily continue with it. So because first thing I will be teaching what are the practical aspects and how you are going to create it. So now let just let me just create another create React app. Okay, lecture 3. For that I will be having uh, forms with forms and data fetching, data fetch, or HTTP request, or API request for the specific API request, and routing. These are few of the concepts I will be teaching. Okay, let me just open it, and I will be just npx create dash react dash app, and then I will be just naming it demo app. Okay. So meanwhile, we are installing this create React app. What I want to share is I have already created a GitHub repo for you people. So I just want to share that with you people. Okay. So React, live React code from 23. So this is the repo that you should refer while learning these things. You can just Google it, github.com/sb96. Okay, as of now. The repo that in which I will be adding all the code. Okay. Yes, I think Levish has added it. Okay. So now let's move forward. I think meanwhile our Create React app is installed. Okay. Now let's just um, added create setup create React app for third lecture. Okay. So uh, let's just open our index.js file. Before that, what I want to do is let's just uh, talk about talk about how this to do app will function. Okay, so with this, what I want to teach is how to actually what is the process to create a React app, or what is the process to create a React component. What are the steps that you need to take so that is very easier for you to follow those steps and easily create a React component. Okay, so for that, let's just say I have a to do app. So this to do app contains, because I want to be very specific and I don't want clutter, so that's why I am keeping it very simple. You can make it very complex also. Okay, so here we have input, and with this we have a button with us. Okay, so it has just a plus marker to it has a plus marker to it, and you can just add your task into it. And below it we are having list of tasks. Okay, below it we will be having list of tasks. So let's say we have this task number 1, then this task number 2, then this task number 4. Okay, can't I color them? Change the color of these. Okay, just to go back, just put it over here because I want it to be very specific or very bold, you can say. So let's just say this is our to do app, and I can just easily divide my to do app into these components. Okay, so if you can see this whole application, let's just name it to do. Okay, and as of now, what are different things that I can identify? I can identify first is an input bar, an input type text, a button, and a list of tasks. So it works very similarly to other to do app. You just type the task, you just click on add, this task will be added to the list. Okay, it is the simplest to do app that you are going to make, and with this I can also do next thing, I can also delete some of the task also, so that I can do. It works for complex components also. So the first step will always be the first step will always be to create static HTML for our component. Don't think of React at this point of time. Just create. Uh, do we? Just create a static HTML for a document. Okay. What I'm going to do is, first of all, just create the static HTML, and then I will tell you the next steps. Okay. So if I come over to app.js, just want to remove all the things that are here, and I want to name it just with an h1, or a div that has an h1 to do app. Okay. We can style it also. Okay. There is no issue with that. But as of now, I don't want to style it. I want to focus on this thing. So if I want to npm start it, I can do it very easily. Open terminal and just do npm start, and you are done with it. uh, Clear cd lecture 3 ls cd demo app, clear, and then npm start. I usually forget about clearing things. Okay, so that sometimes causes mess ups. So now I have a basic setup ready for me that just says to do app. Okay, and now I have to build it. So like we imagined, uh, in this one node we have two areas. First is, if I want to divide it, I can divide it into two portions. First is for input and second is for output. So what I'm doing, I'm just writing the basic HTML for it. So in this to do app, I want to do simple thing. Just want to have a div with, and we have class name over here. Okay, input container that only talks about input. So I'm just naming it so we are easily able to understand. And second component is, second portion is uh, your output box. So that only deals with output. So output container, I'm going to name it. So inside of it, here I need this input and a button. So type input, type equals to text, and next would be output container, that will just be having a ul tag, and in the input I should have button also. Okay, so a button is also required. So for this, plus will be here, and I just want to increase the font size. Okay. Huh. So the next thing would be, I need to have some list. So for that I will be creating ul tag. Okay, and some li. So this one have three li's. Okay. It can have some demo tasks: task 1, task 2, task 3. Okay, till now everything should be looking very easy. Okay, it would be like, sir, what I doing, we can do this thing on my own. I know you can do this thing on your own, but we are forming a habit how to create components in React. Okay, when you are working in the industry. So first step would always be to create static HTML for a component. Okay, so next, let's just now focus on individual things. Okay, so there are two major portions. First deals with input, and second deals with output. So next part is to think about uh, how I can interact, how or you can just, the second part could be, if you as of now you know the distinction that you can break this into multiple components. As of now I can easily break it into multiple components. As I can see that here I can take input, and this is only responsible for giving output. So second would be to break your HTML into multiple components if possible. So if you're given a bigger component, then you can easily break and you can then think in isolation. Okay, so as of now what I'm doing, I am just going to create a folder named components, and inside that I will be creating a file named input box.jsx and output box.jsx. So inside input box, of course, I will be using the shortcut rsce. And what should I put inside input box? Huh? What should I put inside? I think I should put this piece of code inside the input box. Huh? Is this looking fine? Hmm? Everyone, please, can I do it? Please? Hmm? So, as of now, I am putting this piece of code over here. And for the output part, just want to use JSX, not JS. Okay. For the output part, you can just cut this portion. I can paste it over here. RSCE and then your output box. So now the second step is over. And of course, if you want to use it in your React application, you have to import it into your app.js. So just import them, input box, and then your just need to import them. So Control Shift and easily import them. Here it is imported, and you have a shortcut name Control Space. With that, you can just auto complete the import statement also. Input box and the output box. Second is to break them into multiple components, and the third step third step is to uh, work make every subcomponent component working. So this involves two steps. First is adding, if you need to have any user interaction, so add any event handling if required. And uh, if there is an event handling, then you have to change the UI, then add state to it to make every sub component working. You have to do something. Okay, so these things are: go to that component and make it working. Okay, so I am choosing the easier one. Here I want to dynamically list the component. Okay, so I am assuming that this I will be, as this output box is here, then this output box will be getting list of tasks. Okay, it will be getting list of tasks from here. So as of now, if I want to make it dynamic, I just need to uh, have the ability to dynamically render a list. Okay, so for that we already had the code for it in the last lecture. We can use that thing that was available in our list component. Okay, so I'm going to use that part. Okay, so I have replaced this with this piece of code, and for this I need the sum of the items. So as of now I will be adding items. So item, I can also take it from here also. So as of now the whole application is not working, but part of the features are working. And if we assume, I'm assuming for my output box, for this piece of code, is this piece of component is that, assuming my data is coming from the input box. Okay, so from the input box I am getting the data into it. Understood, everyone? Huh? So with this, you just have the ability to dynamically render this to do application. Okay, now let's just come to input box. And for input box, we are having a button. Okay, so what do we need is that when a button is clicked, okay, we want to add a task. Okay, we want to add a task. So for that, what we should be doing, const equals to add task should be created. This is a method that should be there, and it will of course be getting our task. Okay, so let's see how it is going to get it. So first of all, let's just execute this piece of code. Add task executed. Okay, if I inspect it and if I go to my console, then I can easily see, mm, and if I click on it, my add task is executed. So I add event listener. And when it comes to forms, okay, or input uh, in React, there is a bit of difference when it comes to React. So what does React say? React says that your form, your UI can only be changed by React. But when you see an input component, then you can easily change your uh, input. You can put anything inside this input box. So the point over here is that your React doesn't want it. And next thing is, when you want to click on plus, when you want to click on plus, then at that time you want the content inside this input box. So because of that, we have to handle this data with the help of use state. Okay, understood the explanation? The point is that React does not allow anything to change without uh, its appearance or its logic. Okay, okay, without its judgment. Okay, so the point is we are able to change the UI without permission of React. So because of this, React does not allow it, and we can't access the value inside of it. So we have to use state to handle the value inside of this input. So that's how input work in React. So let's see how this thing work in action. Okay, so to see it in action, we have to use state. And initially, what we want to say that your you will be getting a variable let, or const could be here, const with value and set value. So you will be getting value and set value, and with initial value of this value variable is empty, and we put initial value with the use of this value variable. Okay, and I have to import use state also. Use state also. Okay, now my use state is being imported. But one thing you can say, that now if I want to change it, I can't change it, because now your value of input is set by your I just want to give it a better name. Okay, value of input. Okay, so value of input is set by your React. So it is saying that I'm empty. So even if I put anything inside of it, nothing would happen. So I have to add an event listener. That's how input works. So for that, we have a event listener named as on change. So whenever you want to type something, now you want to type something inside this input, your on change is invoked. Okay, so inside on change, I can just have a set value, set input. Okay, so it is basically a standard practice. Okay, so I can just simply call the set input, and it is going to receive an object that has value of e. Okay, and console.log, if I just console.log e.value, e.target.value. So let me just log these things. Okay, so you can easily understand these things. So if I just go over here, if I go to console, if I remove all of these things, and but just simply reload this piece of code, and if I try to type something, you can see your target is, so whenever when an event listener is invoked, in that function you will get a variable that describes that event, and event dot target is the element on which event has occurred. So what I want to get is, whenever a change or whenever I want to type something inside this input, I want to get the value that is typed. So how can I get that? First, I have to get the element that can be easily accessed through event dot target, and value will give me the value that is being written over at that point of time. So I can just like type it. So if you can see that I'm getting the value of it. Okay, so you just don't need to do anything. Just do set value, and e dot target dot value would work. Okay. Hmm. So let me just reload it, and if I type it over here, it is working. So let me just explain it again. Okay, so if that path felt little fast, so let me just go over here. Okay, till now I think everything is understood, because what I have done at this point of time is that I have just set the value inside this input as empty, and whenever I want to type, I can't type anything, because no UI could be changed, because state is not changed. So for that, there is an event listener name on change. With that, you can add any function to it, or you can just say set input value. Okay, this could be a function. So set input value is equals to e. So what happens is that this e, if I log this e describes the event that has occurred. Okay, so whenever I try to type something, this function will be invoked, and when this function is invoked, then your browser sends an object, and this describe the whole event. There are so many things inside of it, so this describe the event, and you can get on every key press component will be rendered, so that yes, we have to deal with it, because without that you can't be able to access that thing. Okay. Yes. And of course React batches that thing. Okay, so you need not to worry, because it will not just on that instant it will change. It just batches the UI update, so it takes care of that. And because without of it, you won't be able to access the value inside of input. So input is will of no use. Okay, so if I want to access my uh, value, I can just the element that has getting the event done, I can just easily get it using event.target. So if I just type something, so then this function is invoked, and I'm getting input type text. So I'm talking about this function, this element. Okay, and the value that I have typed could be accessed through dot value, and to get that value inside state so that I can use it later could be easily set through set val. So if I just console.log e.target.value, after this you'll be seeing, or you can just directly see in the UI also, that this is now working, because incrementally I am saving the value inside the set val. So the point was that you can't access the value of the input. That's why you had to use this kind of thing. So for that you had to create a state variable, set the value of it, and then have a on change, and then access it through event.target.value. There's a standard practice how you are going to work with React forms. Now this part is done. Now I'm able to access the value inside of it. The next thing would be to get the output that is here. So for that we had already have that task, and I can easily have this uh, task to add over here, and it will have the value of input, and just simply click on plus, and now I can view task to add is this thing. So I am a task to add, easily see out of it. Okay, so that's how you work with inputs. So for input it is very easy, very easy. Just set a state variable, put value to it, set on change, and do this thing. And usually it is done over here because it is a standard practice, but you need to know. So that's why all these form elements or the input or any type of these elements are majorly known as controlled component, because these are controlled by React. Okay. uh, with the form they have managed it. Okay, but if they're large component, that causes an issue. Okay, if you are so many changes doing changes at a time, that will cause an issue, and that's why React is used. Okay, because React will be on its own optimizing all the changes. Okay, so that is the whole case. So that's why you are using React, because you want to do these number of changes, and uh, these number of changes, and they should work efficiently. And one more thing you should know, that these things will not go directly to your DOM. React will send it accordingly. Okay, so the cost of UI rendering or printing anything on UI is way higher than your processing cost. That's why, or manipulation is cost of DOM manipulation is very higher than your normal React thing. Okay, so that's why you are using these kind of thing. Okay, understood? Perfect. Let's just finish the basics first, so that I don't need to explain those. Okay, Amazon clone will be started after Instagram Reels. Okay, shall I move forward with it? Huh? Hmm? Okay, so now this part being said done, and one thing more is missing, that I should be emptying this to do this task after my work is done. So if I just click plus, then this should I should be accessing it, and for the next task to be input, this should be empty. So now what you can see is that your app has individually two things working. Like this input can have this input written inside of it, and with plus you can access the task. Okay, and this output can easily uh, print any number of tasks you will throw it to it. Okay. uh, let's finish this thing first. Okay, Ranjan, after that I can just show the form validation. Okay. Huh. Or you can just ask it in the end of the session. Okay, so now the next thing would be to go to the to see how you can interact these two things, because individually your input can take the input and can easily log the task. Okay, and your output can of course print these things. So if I think of these two components, you need to now think them in as a form of a tree. So the fourth part will be connecting these for these subcomponent. Now at the top of it we have app, and below it we have input, and here we are having output. Okay, so now this input needs to tell everything to output. Whenever it gets a task, it needs to tell the output box to render that task on the UI. Okay, so for that, what you should be doing is you should be sending data to it. Okay, how to send data to your parent? Because when you want to send data to your children, if the parent decide to send data to the children, they can easily pass the prop. Okay, a value to it. Okay, but now you need to know how you can pass data from children to parent, and then that parent need to tell that a new task has arrived and you need to change it. Okay, so for that, first let's learn how this thing is possible and how app would be triggered to tell every time it gets the data. So let's just see how children to parent communication is possible. Okay, so for that, what do we need to do is we need to have a method with us. We can just have add task with us. Okay, so const add task with us, and of course it will accept a task, and as of now it is going to log it. Console.log add task, comma task, and this is basically to accept the task. Okay, accept new task. So if I want to get some data from input box, okay, it is very simple. You have to just use the tricks, the good old tricks. Okay, so what I can do is I can just, if I am in app, I can just pass this accept new task as a prop to my children. That is input box. Okay, and it can access this thing in the props. I can now just call my props dot accept task, accept new task from here, and I can pass my value of input to it. So that's how you send data from children, because of course input box is in children of app. Okay, so when you have to pass some data from children to parent, your parent would firstly send a function to it, and the children will call the function that is given by your parent. So that's how you're going to have a communication between children to parent. So next thing that you learned, for connecting between these subcomponent, you need to know how to send data from children to parent. Okay, it is very easy. It is very easy, yaar. Input box, for input box I just said send the function to it. So it has the address of accept new task, and now I can access this function in my props. And when this button is clicked, what I am doing, I'm just getting the value of input or the task that is entered inside of it, and I'm just calling the function that is given to me by my parent. So now your parent is getting the task. I want to saying how I mean to say, I want to send data from children to parent. Okay, if you are seeing, this guy is providing you value of input. Value of input is present inside the children, and it is sending it to parent. Understood? That is the whole case. So now we are done with it, and after this, let's see how I can just send data from parent to children. It is just easy, where you can pass a prop as a data. Okay, so now one thing is that if I talk about output box, the output box should be getting this data. Okay, it can have its own state, but the point is, the next thing is how your parent is going to be triggered. Okay, how your parent is going to be triggered. So to do that, if there is something, if there is a state uh, that needs to be changed in this guy, and your parent needs to tell you that you need to change your state at that point of time, you have to put that state into here. So in other words, I have to put list of the task over here, so that whenever get the task from here, I can update the state, and this will re-render my output as well as my input. Okay, for because of that my output will be re-rendered, or if there is new task is there, so that will be added. Okay, so because of that I will be having this items thing inside my parent. Okay, so now the second task should be to send data, send update from parent to children, because this is very important, yeah. Okay, so because of this, what we are doing, we are doing a simple task of putting my list state into here, and I just easily get it items, and then your comma set items, and you can just get it using use state. So if you have to update your children, in that case you have to have state in your parent. Okay, so just import comma use state. So I have this empty array, and whenever I get the task from the parent, I just what is happening to it? ESLint item is not defined. Just do it. So whenever I get a task, I just add it to the items array. Okay. So for this, just get a new item and let new task array. So in if I talk about React, you would never change the original data. That is how React works. So because of that, I need to spread it. So for that, items plus I want to add the new task. So that is the rule. You can't change the original state data, because state data could only be changed by your handler function. Okay, setter function. Your items will new task array. Get this as, and of course as this is a state variable, and as soon as I get new task from here, I update the state, and if the state is update, this thing will run again. And because of this, if I pass a list to it, this will be updated also, and now I can easily access it in my props. So just use props dot lists dot map. Okay, uh, wait a sec. Just a list is not a keyword. Output box props dot list. What is happening to it? Command R. List is not defined. 18.5 in app.js. Okay, it's items. I can just do list. Okay. So now you can easily see that how the code will work. First of all, you will type something inside the input. Every time your on chain will execute and your input will be here. So if I'm just doing i am I am doing some task. Okay, then if I click on plus, then if I click on plus, then this add task function is invoked and it is calling the prop passed by your parent. So it is, in other words, sending I am doing some task to this app.js, or task should be done. Okay, so if I click on this plus, so what should happen? This accept new task should be called, and it updates a state variable. Okay, and this state variable belongs to your app. So this app will re-render this whole piece of code with this new state variable, or in other words, your output box will get another element into it. So if I click on plus, then your task is added. So how does this work? This work very easily. It is not rocket science. What happens that initially, if I talk about our app, our app talks to our input box in a manner that it first sends a function in which your input box can send you data, and as soon as plus is clicked, your function is invoked and your data is sent. Inside that function, your data is sent, and this data, the data that you received, is added to a state variable. Okay, added to that array. So this app has also another component, that is your output box. So what this output box does, it is accepting the list as a prop, as the data given by it is added to the state variable, that is none other than list. Okay, that list is updated, so this app's state is updated, so app will re-render input box and output box. So because of that, a new list will be sent that has another element added to it, so it will be getting the data. Understood, everyone? So that's how the things work. First of all, you pass a prop uh, to a children as a function. Okay, and next is your children will tell you, send you the data, and that data is added to a state variable of the parent, and then parent will send it to the children. Okay, I would recommend everyone to follow this methodology, because this is how you are going to work on complex application when you are working with React. Okay, so that's all. So working with forms, okay, in React. So done. Okay, all the process of creating a React component. That is the simplest thing that you can create. Understood, everyone? Huh? So, shall I move forward? And as of now, I will be explaining how you can fetch data in React, how you can get data in React. So that is the next thing that we can learn. Okay. So next will be fetching data. So let's just, so this is the process that you should be following. Okay, this may look daunting at first. Okay, this may look daunting, but if you practice it 2 to 3 times, then it will become very easy. And for this, you can read 2 articles. Up lifting the state up, lifting the state up. Okay, this one article that you can read, and thinking in React. Majorly, whatever I taught you is inspired by these two articles, because that is how you should be working in React. Because before this you knew everything, you knew props, you knew composition, you knew state, you knew event handling. But even after that you need to know about these things. Okay, so let me just move forward and let me just explain then how data fetching is done in React. Okay, so just let me just go ahead and let me just introduce some data fetching. And I want to create folder for to do also, because that should be easy for you to navigate. Components slash to do slash, and with this slash to do slash output box. Okay, huh. So now yes, this session is being recorded, yeah. But it would be nice if you people should attend it, because that way you can ask the doubts also. Okay, because that would help. So let me just move forward without wasting a time. Okay, so inside app.js, I will be commenting. I have these piece of code, and I, as of now, what I want to do is let's just comment this piece of code and just talk about turn h1 and h1 your fetching data. Okay, so how you can fetch data in React. Before that, I want to introduce to a feature that is available in your React. Okay, so with this, what I just want to do something like this: console.log. I will execute. Okay. And you have a hook that is present inside React, and that is known as use effect. I will just be giving a brief intro about use effect. Okay, so use effect is basically a hook that takes two things. Okay, a function and an array, and this array behaves in different manner, and this is known as dependency array. Okay, so let's see how this use effect works. Okay, so as of now I am keeping this array empty, and in the, no, it is not the lifecycle method. I will be explaining it into the hooks class, that you should not be calling it a lifecycle method. Okay, that is a misnomer, because that is not how it was designed. Okay, so if you look to the newer documentation for use effect, they have refrained from using life cycle. Okay, we just map it to our old things. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, so say let's just see how this works. I will run later. So we have this use effect, and this is an inbuilt hook or inbuilt functionality given by React that takes a function and second a dependency array. And with this configuration, with an empty array and a function, it will invoke your function after your whole code is executed. Your whole function is executed. Okay. So what I can say is just simply do console.log hi. Okay. So rendering. Let's see. Happens. And if I just go to my console, if I reload it, you can see uh, I will execute, and then rendering, then I will execute rendering, I will run later, I will run later. Okay, so there is some issue with react.strict mode. Let me just remove it. Because of this thing, I was saying that it is not uh, a React, a basic lifecycle look. Okay, this is basically if you add React dot strict mode, your whole code executes two time, and there is a perfect reasoning to it. Okay, I will be explaining that when I will be teaching you people React hooks. Okay, so just commented this piece of code, and let's come here and let's see how the whole code is being executed. So first of all, if I just do console.log before, so what is happening over here, that if I reload it, your before is executed. Okay, then after that, your I will execute is printed, and after that I will run later is printed. Sorry, rendering is printed, and after that I will run later is printed. So what it does, after your function execution is finished, only after that this function will be executed only once in your lifetime. Okay, so because of this, it is very useful. So what happens is, when you open your apps like Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, what you usually see is like if I do something like this, if I have LinkedIn with me and I do something like this, if I just go over here, if I inspect it, if I go to its tab, and if I just slow it a bit, okay, so I just throttle it to slow 3G, and if I reload it, but you can see I'm reloading it. Please get reloaded, yaar. Huh. So initially it is just need to do it on fast 3G. Okay. Huh. So I'm reloading this piece of thing. Initially, what you can see, LinkedIn and this loader is here. Okay. And after some time, your content will be appearing. And why it is doing this way, because of this, the user may now know that your site is being loaded and it is not stuck. So that's why initially UI is first brought, and then with the use of use effect, you will be making an API request to get data from it. Okay, you will be making a API request to get data from your LinkedIn backend server, so that user would wait for that to load. He is not very patient. That's why we initially give them the UI, and after that we make a API request, and when as soon as that data arrives, we just hand over the we just replace that loader with this uh, UI that should be presented to our consumer. Okay, so that's the whole thing. So that's why use effect. Okay, and that's is it's as of now whole use case. So let's see how I can make an API request. So for that, what I can do is I can use a library named Axios. So for that I need to install that thing. So split terminal npm I Axios is a library. Okay, it is installed. So import Axios from Axios. Okay. And basically it takes an async function, so it just functions similar to this. So async function, and inside of it just do a Axios dot get, and I just want to get any piece of data. So for that I am using JSON placeholder. Okay, so this is basically a website that acts as an API and can give you some data. So I'm just getting data of users. Okay, just need to pass this thing, and it is going to hand me over response, and this response object is very big. So because of that, I have to get console.log data inside of response.data. So that's how you can get data from your backend. So inside use effect, you just need to use this Axios and can get, and you can also post something. So if I want to reload it, you can see I have this list of data. Okay. So now, if I want to use it, I can easily use it. Of course, I can have a state variable, let users and comma. Do you people need to me to do that? I can easily do it. Of course, set users. Initially, it is use state that is empty. Okay. Yes, exactly, Abhishek. First, initially, your UI will execute, your UI will be shown, and then your data will be added to that UI, so that your user does not think that your website is stuck. Okay. Okay. Now, let's have this data and let's uh, use this component to re-render it. Okay. So for it, we can usually do it initially. Just put it over here, and now what I can do is, initially I would say, if users, you can do it in this way, users dot, and this is known as conditional rendering. This is known as conditional rendering. That means if you don't have data, you just print loading. If you have some data, you just print the data. Okay. So if users dot length is equals to 0, then just print h2 with, yes, ternary operator, exactly. uh, Simply loading. Initially, if you see, we'll say it is loading, and then as of now, h2 will contain this. Users, yes, you loaded it. So initially, as I haven't set anything, initially your users array is empty. That's why it is printing loading. Okay. Now I wish to replace all the users with some data. So that is what I am getting from response.data. So what I will be doing, I will be replacing my uh, users with your response.data. So set users is equivalent to response.data. So in that way, I will be getting an array. So now it is printing just the users. So what I can do, I can just use the UL, and inside, of course, you will be using a lot of UL and LIs. Okay. So your users dot map, and inside that I will be getting a single user, and I will be returning simple HTML for that. Okay, I'm not going into too depth. Okay, because the point is, we just need to understand these things. That's why I wasn't explaining UI to people. So this is most important. JSON dot stringify. So everything is JSON, so I need to stringify it so that you are easily able to use the data. So now you can see this is the data that is coming. So if you if you had some UI, or you can just if you had some h1 and more tags over here, you can replace this object with actual profiles of the users. That's how you use data that is you are getting from the backend. Or I can easily do it. Key equals to id, user.id. Okay, if you want to see that, I can do this thing also. I could just easily do this with simple thing. I can just do user.name. That's it. User.name. Just get the names of every user. I was getting those object. Out of that, I just got the desired data. We had a function, we had a hook name use effect, and it takes a function and an empty array. It execute after your UI is initially rendered. Okay, so the next thing is, we usually use effect to send API request with an empty array, to send API request to get data from that API, and then have initially we have a state variable that has an empty or an empty array. So initially we set it to loading, and as this loading is printed, now your UI is rendered. Then you are going to make a request. As soon as data arrives, your state is updated, and now as state is updated, your return will be executed again, or the function is executed again. Then now the second case would work, and now you will be seeing these data of the users. So that's how this thing work. Component composition, user interaction, working with the list. And second is how to practically create a React component. So those four steps, you should always remember those four steps. Initially, what I always recommend is, firstly, create the static HTML. And if you are not able to identify the multiple component, you can just skip the second step, and you can do it as the third step. You can switch to second and third. Okay, make every component working individually, and then uh, now if you know that these could be broken, you can break them. And now you have to connect these two. And for connecting, if someone is sending data, then you have to have the data that you need to accept in your state. So, or in another words, I wanted to accept data from app, sorry, from input, the new task. That's why I have to have that list of tasks with me, because whenever I got that task, I had that in state. So I update my state, and because of that, anyone who is depending upon that task or the list or the new task will get it, because my state is updated. So that is the thing that is very important. And the last part is lifting the state up. Okay, so the part where I just, because this output guy needs this list, but I send it to the parent, because when I send it to the parent, it is now available to both of these people to use. Okay, so now you know this as well. And with this, you have a basic idea of use effect, and how to send request, and how to use conditional rendering. Okay, and now on to our routing in React. Shall I explain routing in React, or are we done? Huh? Because uh, I can easily explain this in the IMDb clone lecture. Okay. Huh. So let me just explain then those things. Okay. As of now, from my side, this class is over. I will be explaining the routing part in the next lecture. Okay. When I will be starting the IMDb clone project. Okay. That will be totally based on React and everything you have learned till now, with the addition of CSS. Okay, with the addition of CSS, and I will be deploying that to GitHub pages. Okay, or a Netlify or anything you want. Okay, sure. And there I will be using TMDB API also to create it. So, let's just talk about lifting the state up. Okay, so you need to have some basic strong to understand this thing. So let's just let me just create notes.md for you people. Just fact, I just call it factory. Let me just say one thing. The first thing is a component only re-renders when its state is updated. First fact is this, and you can send data data to your children as props that has values. Okay, that has definite data, and you can get data from your children using props send as functions. Okay, uh, using props send as using props send as. Just want to remove this piece of thing, so it is not required as of now. So these are the three facts. Okay, the first is you can send the data to a children using props uh, as values, and you can send data from a children to parent. Okay, using function. So if I open this thing, and if I have this app.js, and if I want to uh, comment this thing down, the whole thing, and if I uncomment this piece of thing, here what I'm doing, I'm just sending normal data to my children. Okay, and I am getting data from my children using a prop that is a function. Understood? So these are two facts, and the third fact is that a component only re-renders when its state is updated. Okay, and now if I come over here, if I talk about app input and output, if I talk about app input and output, you have a app. Yes, exactly. You can talk it like a think of it like a callback. Yes, app, input box, and output box. So the point is, what you want to do is, this guy initially, what we can think of at a as a naive person, that this guy needs list of tasks. Okay, so I should add the list of tasks as its state. Okay, and this guy has new task. So what we can think, we just need to have a way to send this new task to this output guy. Understood? I need a way to send the new task to output so that it can update its state. Understood? I think that is very easy to understand. But the point is, the app is parent of input, and output is all app is also the parent of output. So what does that mean? What does this mean? This means that input can only send data through input can only send data through parent, and only parent can send data to the children or the update. So the input should be able to send the new task to the app, and as soon as this app gets the new task, it should tell the output that the new task is added. Okay, understood? So because of this explanation, you have to pass a prop as a function, huh? And the next thing is, you can have this new task as a state. Let's just assume, if you want just new task as a state. Okay, whenever you get a new task, you just send that new task to your uh, children component, and it updates is its array, and it's now re-renders it. So the point is at because of this case you are having three states. New task is here, you are having new task over here also, and you have list of tasks of here also. And React says you should only have single source of truth. This is the convention, because if you don't do it, there may be issues in a bigger application. So the point is there are two states of the same name, new task at input also, at app also, so there's a duplicacy. So if I'm adamant to it, I have to do it, because but it is very wrong according to React. So that's why what I need to do is I need to uh, give this state to my parent. So as soon as it get the new task, it updates this array, and as soon as the array is updated, your state will be updated and it will send the new props. So that is what lifting your state is called. Understood? So if we didn't wanted to do that, in that case we had new task at two positions. So that is not what React likes. Okay. So there are some conventions that you need to follow. That's why these things are in their way. And just want to do a bit from my side also. Just I want to, yes, this is thing. This. Hmm. ठीक है, हाँ ठीक है. Added a request with. I will be using basics, everything that I taught you till today, the whole React that I taught you, nothing else. I will be using TMDB API. Of course, I will be teaching routing at that point of time. Its importance and why it is used. I will be using Tailwind as my CSS library. So in these two classes, I am majorly focused on teaching React. That's why I didn't introduced any CSS or any kind of thing. So we will be using Tailwind for it, and we will be using Firebase to deploy it. Understood, everyone? Hmm? So that's all from my side. Bye bye. Take care. Good night, everyone. Bye bye. We will speak in, I think.